Welcome back, folks, to the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. On today's show, we have Doug Knebelsberger, Vice President of Marketing for Light Efficient Design. And, we're going to talk about a letter that went out recently to the industry, an open letter, and his chairmanship of that committee on NAILD. Go to nailed.org. That's right, we're working it. We're the busiest little association in lighting. But before we go there, we're going to talk a little bit about Light Efficient Design's sister company. I don't know if it's a sister or a brother or what it is, but it's solera-solar.com, Greg Eric.
Yeah, and just as a whole, before we're actually going to turn it over to Doug to talk, but before we get into that, Light Efficient Design has always been innovative and a company that I look to for new, unique products that no one else has. And then a lot of times they get copied and never as good as what Light Efficient Design does. And one of those is the hybrid solar product. That anytime I have any application where somebody needs solar, I go to Light Efficient Design. And Doug, tell us why we do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got our brand of solar lighting, Solera Solar Lighting, and it's typically in the past we've had all just off-grid products, which are fantastic problem solvers. Put light where you don't have any existing electricity today. You don't have to worry about trenching or anything expensive like that. But last summer we launched Hybrid 365 for an area light, which is really cool. So it uses solar technology and is primarily driven by the sun. However, it does wire into the grid 120 through 277 to guarantee 365 nights of light. So really cool product. Just a few months ago, we got it DLC premium listed. So it is incentivized by utilities that are giving out money for area lights. And just a really cool, innovative product. And we're coming out with some more in that hybrid family later this summer. So I'm really excited.
It's awesome. I am too.
So you got to go to, just go right now. Go to led-llc.com. Go to solera-solar.com. That's SOLERA-SOLAR.com. So, Doug, you were the chairman of the NAILD vendor committee for the promotion and advancement of dark skies, or the 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting. I can't remember the exact name. It was one of those two names. And It all started, you're a board member. Back in September, I asked you to, hey, can you run this for us? I'm not sure when it's going to happen, and kind of got pushed back, and we finally got to it around March. Tell us a little bit about, you shook up the industry a little bit with that. I'm not kidding you, man. People read that letter. It got out there, and there were some big names on that letter, including the Tina Halfbetty from the DLC. We had the IES on there, the National Lighting Bureau, the UL, CSA, so many people were on that letter, and you can check it out. It's on Edison Report or Inside Lighting. Tell me how, all that started and what it meant to you to be a part of that.
Sure. So I again appreciate the opportunity that the board gave me to run the committee. Really, we view ourselves as a leader. We as NAILD. It's been great being a part of the group, but we view ourselves as a leader in the industry, and dark sky is becoming more and more top of mind, and we want to be a part of it. We want to be a part of the change that happens over the next several years or decade or plus. There's a long way to go there, but I really was happy with the headline that TED Magazine picked up on it, which was NAILD rallies the industry. This really needs to be a collaborative effort. As you mentioned, Michael, we addressed the open letter to several, key and important organizations throughout the industry. And really we need help. We're, as you mentioned, a pretty small organization, small but mighty organization. And we can't do it all ourselves, but our hope is that the open letter, puts out there that, we want to do our part and help, but also, again, rallying, the troops to come together to aid us with resources and just, opinions, ideas. Let's keep, collaborating and figure out how do we, increase the adoption at a quicker rate than it is currently.
People can read the letter and find this out, but we're here to talk about it. So who was on the committee? What did that entail?
Yep. So it was actually pretty neat. opportunity to work with some of my competitor friends, as I like to call them. But we had people from some big names like Satco and Rab, and we had somebody from TCP, a couple guys from Keystone, Devin from Louvers International, and then somebody else from Light Efficient Design, our Chief Innovation Officer. So we got the group together initially, and these are all vendor members of NAILD. But super fortunate to be able to work with people from those companies, and some of those guys. I mean, they've been doing this thing for decades. So the amount of experience and knowledge that they brought to the committee was admirable. I mean, I was super fortunate to be able to pull from those type of resources. So, but it didn't stop there. We were able to get James Bania involved as he's got his own consulting agency these days, but he's been in the industry a long time. Some of the things that I think people might know him for are Title 20 and Title 24, some codes that he helps write out in California. And I mean, he was a wealth of information and knowledge, and it was so fun just to be able to pick his brain and get his insights on the whole thing. So it was just a really great collective effort, with competitors, but also with somebody like James that's been doing this for decades.
And James was the honorary chairman just before. I know, Greg, you got something for Doug, but also Devin Wall from Louvers was on the panel as well. We don't want to forget Devin.
Yep.
And
Devin's my guy. He's local here with me in Chicago too. So yeah, great guy.
Yep. He did say Devin for the record. I heard him say that.
Oh,
Devin
did you?
Louvers.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure. I didn't hear Louvers, so I want to make sure they got a shout out.
Thanks, Greg.
So, yeah, for sure. How did the format go then? What did you guys do? Was it like a roundtable discussion? Did you throw out questions? How did you go about figuring out?
Yeah, so I was kind of the quarterback of it, kind of the facilitator, and but yeah, it was more of a roundtable discussion. We wasn't super formal in that nature, but I had a list of things that I wanted to make sure that we touched on, including every single one of the 5 principles of responsible outdoor lighting. But yeah, it was just it was more of like a conversation, and talking about, okay, what are some challenges that we face, and what are some ideas to, overcome those challenges, which I think is, key in any type of conversation where we're trying to, move the needle and move forward.
So just to start into it here, the key points that you came out with. The first one is, let's talk about each one. Education should be simple, easily accessible, and segmented into products that are suitable for various consumer types, from the general public and typical lighting distributors to those who work in sensitive locations like the U.S. national parks. It should include but not be limited to infographics, real-world examples, and concise presentation. So the first point you guys came out with is that more education was necessary. Was that one of the unanimous things? And tell us a little bit about how that one came about to be one of the key takeaways.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think the entire committee agreed with education. Certainly, Dark Sky puts out some great material, some great research. The internet is a wonderful place to find information, but a lot of times you'll find things that are very one-sided. So you might find some things about how Dark Sky impacts wildlife and things of that nature, but doesn't focus on the human elements of it, which is one of the 5 things that we had called attention to. But I think again, this collaborative effort between different organizations, us, NAILD with Dark Sky, with maybe the folks from DLC, but trying to really pool these facts together and just making sure that we're educating people throughout the channel, which starts with us at the top as manufacturers, but we've got our rep partners out there, we've got distributor partners, contractors, ESCOs, end users, utilities. I mean, there's so many different people that could use the information, more, like I said, access it more easily, but also let's make sure we're telling, all sides of the story here, with the implications of what Dark Sky or the lack of Dark Sky could have.
The next one, Greg, which I thought was, maybe if there's a controversial point on the list. You know, if you that maybe this is why Jane Slade's not here today. I know she's very passionate about this, but focus the education primarily on human benefits, with specific reference to the adverse effects of high color temperature white light at night. You know, and a lot of times you don't, when you search for, you know, darkness or dark skies, you get a lot of wildlife, you get a lot of fish, you get a lot of whales. But you guys were saying, you know what, let's get this thing focused on humans. Was that unanimous? And second of all, how did it come about?
Sure. Because it is maybe one of the more controversial points of it, I won't say that it was unanimous, but it was a popular opinion from the committee that we need to focus, more. There are certainly implications of it, but when you look at a lot of the research out there, and I won't try to say that I've spent weeks and months researching the topic. I'm still continuously learning about dark sky and all of the effects, but so much of it is really focused on what you had just said, Michael, about wildlife and because I know one of the big focuses is like national parks and stuff, and totally makes sense to have a lot of these dark sky principles implemented for those areas. But then if we're talking about whether it's parking lots or just street lighting in a neighborhood, there isn't a lot of wildlife in those areas necessarily. There certainly is some, but not at the discretion that there would be at a national park. So would love to see more research showing how it impacts people's behavior, and I don't know enough to say kind of like the circadian rhythm that people are doing for indoor fixtures with the lighting kind of following the sunlight throughout the day, but I think there's got to be some kind of marriage between the two concepts, and would love to see more research done on that.
I think, Greg, he's talking about really moving the needle, because, a lot of the people don't care that much about birds. I hate to say that. You know what I mean? They care about turtles. I mean, turtles seem to get a lot of play. They don't want the turtles swimming the wrong way. It's called, don't go over. No, it's so sad when they go to the parking lot instead of because they think the LED light's the moon and they go the wrong way or whatever. But when I think about it, moving the needle, those we're gonna turn off the lights for the bird migration. Oh, we got dark skies done. Like that. People feel like, oh yeah, the great hornet grouse has now passed over Portland, and it's not it's not going the wrong way. People go, hey, that's great. They like it on Facebook or whatever, but it doesn't move the needle. And I totally thought that was such a wonderful thing to come out of it, and a bit controversial because the wildlife folks, how dare you? This is, wildlife is just as important as human life. And it's like, well, we're talking about things people want to buy, And
who's the decision maker? Unfortunately, it's humans.
It's not the birds.
So, yeah.
Do the birds have the money? They unfortunately don't have the money.
And you'll move the leader a lot faster. Like if people became aware, like if the general public became aware that actually the utility doesn't have a right to shine the light on your property. And if it's going in your window, that's a light trespass, and it causes human health problems. And the flicker, that's another one that nobody knows about. A lot of those LED lights, the early ones are flickering. So yeah, I think that was such a great point to come out of the committee. So I'm glad that it was even if it wasn't unanimous.
No, and to be fair, I mean, I think we kind of, we won't jump ahead, but I think once we get to, number 4 or 5, actually number 5 with, the tiered system and kind of treating different applications differently, because they, again, like I said, national parks, have a boatload of wildlife, and, should probably handle that in a certain way. And then when you're looking at neighborhoods, treat those as such.
Yeah, so let's just go right into that point, because it was funny because when it came back from Jim, he unnumbered them, which was actually like it seemed very nuanced and small, but I said, why did you unnumber them? And it's because they're all important actually, and there's no heaviness to each of them. So help develop a tiered system. Now remember, this is addressed to the IDA and the IES and the NLB and the UL and all those ETL. Help develop a tiered system addressing the application zone and the purpose of the light fixtures. So now you're saying from prison yards to national parks, there, all of these applications should be able to participate in a dark sky friendly tier, if possible. A prison yard's never going to get there like a national park is going to get there, but we still want to be able to design for that, especially with the emergence of low Kelvin temperature, high color rendering LEDs. Things like that change the game. I'm assuming that's a unanimous one with the panel.
Yeah, and I would say honestly, we kind of took a little bit of a page out of DLC's playbook. Obviously, we're not trying to create 1,000 categories, but having a good subset of different types of applications, and DLC does it depending on the type of products today. Whether it's outdoor or indoor, but there's different categories within DLC, and each of them have different requirements. Even you see that with the new 5.1 that's coming out. I guess now a year from now, which is kind of helpful. Give us a little bit more time to address our products and get them up to speed. So.
And Greg, that's something that a lighting professional could sell on, right? So
for sure.
You have these when things are tiered, or instead of dark sky or not dark sky, you have best practices for prison yards. You have best practices for street lighting. It's such an obvious way to do it.
Yeah, you could do a guideline or whatever. IES has done that kind of thing before, but just saying, here's how you do it in this application, and I think that'd be great.
This is an interesting. Go ahead. Yeah,
I was just gonna say I'm a big fan of one size doesn't fit all.
Right.
And you just got to treat things differently and cater to each. So that's just last point to add there.
Okay. This was an interesting one too. Work together. So that's that rally, right? NAILD would see, and the manufacturers in NAILD would see themselves under the umbrella, in this case, of the IDA and the IES, and that we're not capable of setting up the kinds of best committees that would do this kind of thing. But I really, really love this one. Work together on a campaign confronting the misconceptions surrounding the balance between electric light at night, natural darkness, and safety. Was that unanimous, or what? What happened with that one?
I would say it came together, and a lot of this stuff was kind of my takeaways from what the group was saying. Reviewing our meeting minutes and everything, and I thought and again kind of coming back to with some of these studies being more focused on one side versus the other, but there aren't many studies that talk about all three of these all in once. And I think it's each one of them is individually important, but at the same time they all are they all collide and need to be thought of together. So again, that's one of those where we want to work with people that can help us uncover and peel back a little bit and understand how these three work together, and what is the perfect balance, or as close to perfect as we can get.
So when I look at that one, you start to think, oh, okay. Greg, lighting has an axiomatic presupposition. How do you like that one?
Start over.
Okay, an assumption. Okay, but an axiom is something that you start from and you assume is true. So is an axiomatic. Saying axiomatic presupposition is I want to sound smart, but I work at the Department of Redundancy Department. They're kind of the same thing, a presupposition and an axiom. But anyway, so what it is, it's a starting place. And the lighting industry seems to have this starting place that is evidenced by the fact there's no maximum light levels, okay? And the axiom is that outdoor electric light at whatever level it's at is as highest level as you can afford energy-wise, increases safety. And this plays itself out in courts, in court orders, and insurance cases, and everything else. So all the studies you're talking about, Doug, start off with the presupposition that the more outdoor light you have, the higher the uniformity, the higher the Kelvin temperature, the more safe everything is. And so what came up on Starving for Darkness when we were discussing this, Greg, was that why don't you invert that presupposition and see if you can prove it? Instead of starting with the idea that that's just for sure true, why not invert it? See if high Kelvin temperature and high uniformity, high glare, high brightness, high light levels actually decrease human safety. And see if you can prove that. Never been done, I guarantee you. Just even the flipping the hypothesis on its head. And so that came from, to me, directly from the open letter. When I saw that point and I brought it up on the show, so it even impacted me. I'm the co-host of the Starving for Darkness podcast. So help develop, this is a good one, and it's our last one we're going to discuss. Help develop an ROI calculator that factors misused or wasted outdoor electric light. What a wonderful gift that would be, actually.
Yep. We're gonna need some help on developing that, but I think it's important. Everybody has got either their simple ROI calculator that plugs in the key factors, but if you're overlighting an area, we could dial down the consumption that we're using. We can control it. Obviously that's one of the 5 principles, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we could do if we really looked at the amount of wasted light that we're using per whether it's per fixture or per the entire project.
And Greg, what's interesting about that is or interesting about what you guys came up with is that it occurred to me, Greg, that the entire outdoor lighting infrastructure in the United States is now back in play. If we were able to do this, like people have a negative attitude in the industry, Greg. But if they actually read the letter and took it seriously, you lean back and you say, Greg, Eric, it's time to start over.
Every exterior lighting project you've done needs to start over. In a way, that's what it comes down to, right?
Yep.
I mean, but for the good for a business standpoint, but also for everything else you guys are talking about, and I think that's the key with what I took out of this too is that. Right now it's so stringent in a way. It's either dark sky or it's not. You need to have some room to get to that level where we can get, the strict guidelines. But we need some leeway in there, right? We need some action so that we can get to that point or work towards that point. And I think that's what this is really outlined to me.
Yeah, I think it was just through our lighting news brief publication a couple weeks ago. There was a smaller town outside San Diego that became the 30th dark sky compliant city in the country. And then, so now I've been, just kind of Googling that every week or so. And now we're at number 32. There's a town in Colorado, I think West End. But 32. So, it's like, all right, we're making some progress, but, my friend Google went to that, just under 20,000 cities in the country. So we're, far away from 1%, even conversion. But it's being talked about more. I think maybe one of the more notable cities that's trying to go dark sky is Park City, Utah. Big tourist ski town. So at least for me, that's one of the more notable names that I've seen, making the push to go to dark sky. So I think they have a plan to get there in the next 5 years. So they're, not understanding that's not going to happen overnight, but, given direction that this is something they're going to do in the next 5 years, which seems quite reasonable.
Now, as a panel or committee of manufacturers, did you guys discuss the implications that something like this could have on your product development, on, the cost that it's going to take on your end to accomplish this?
Yeah, sure. We talked about it, at a high level. We provide a lot of 4K and 5K outdoor fixtures, and that's what our customers are looking to order from us. And I think I mentioned it in our letter, but I think it holds true for the other manufacturers on the committee, but definitely for Light Efficient Design. That most of our product development comes from customer feedback. And just listening to them and hearing pain points that they're having with today's products, whether it's ours or somebody else's, and advancing the product and innovating to solve those issues. But we aren't hearing a ton of it. We're hearing maybe some more 3000K, which does fall in the dark sky category. I'm a bit more familiar with, like Arizona and Southern California, just due to some rep relationships there. But, we sell a lot more 3000K in those markets because, they haven't necessarily, gone dark sky compliant, but they're trying to, bridge the gap there, and, doing things like 3000K, helps get them there, and, helps with the dark sky initiative. So
The line is, the challenge we face is that the current demand for products congruent with the 5 principles is low. It will take the cooperation of the entire industry, from product innovation through installation, to change direction. That's a pretty powerful statement, man. And it's it's a rally call, man. That's exactly what it is.
yeah. I mean, I think I was just gonna say, I mean, some big names in that committee, with myself as well. But, I mean, if there was a ton of customer demand, I mean, we would be silly not to just, make that product, but it's not there today. We certainly hope that it goes in that direction, but that's kind of what this whole, open letter is to do, is, bring some more awareness and work together with the other key allies in the industry to make that, a reality.
2 more things that I have just from the conversation here that I didn't think in the letter, but you have to see, like, a letter like this is not a finalized of anything. It's just part of taking the flywheel and stopping it from spinning in one direction and then trying to get it to go in the other direction. We're still trying to stop the flywheel from spinning in the wrong direction, right? We haven't even started to try to kind of, okay, now how do we pull it in? And I got a little point on that at the end, which I think you're gonna like, Doug. But controls. Was there much talk of controls on the panel? But there wasn't a final point that came out of it.
Yeah, it was actually something that I was kind of, as I was, leading the discussion or navigating us through this, was, just kind of splitting it between, retrofitting projects versus new construction. I think we see in new construction a lot more controls being implemented, but when you're doing retrofitting, it a lot of times comes down to, are there incentives? In certain areas, utilities, throw an extra incentive, on top of the fixture incentive if you add a control to it. And then obviously if that helps the overall payback and brings down the ROI on the project, it's going to happen more frequently. But the control adoption for retrofitting, still remains, in my eyes, kind of low. And again, that's a more on retrofitting versus, new construction, new build, and everything like that.
I brought this up a couple times with Greg, and then asked a couple questions. By the way, you know who could do the ROI calculator, Greg? Ian Ashdown.
Yeah, the guy Ian Ashdown. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, he could do it. So maybe we're going to talk to him a little bit later after the show.
I like it.
But so when you're trying to get something done, we're all businessmen, right? So you're trying to get something done, and you're trying to focus the troops. You're trying to say, okay, here's what you need to know. Right? In the German army, they call it Auftragstaktik, which means, like, here's the end goal. That's why the German army in World War I, I hate to say it, but the German army from, say, in 1809 to 1945 was probably the greatest general staff in the history of armies, maybe Romans or something like that. But they were incredible. And they had this something where they, instead of telling people what to do, they just told them what the end goal was. And so then officers in the field, lieutenants and captains and sergeants, would just work toward that end goal without any clear direction of how to accomplish it. Okay? And so that was a very powerful force. It was invented by Napoleon, but the Prussians studied Napoleon and stole it from him. The French forgot it, and the Germans remembered it, and the rest is history. So, but they used that and became very powerful. Their army became very quick and fast and was able to get things done. And so when we look at this, what is the one thing, and I know what it is, I'm not sure if it's right. And I'm going to ask you guys. If we said if the lighting industry came out and said, okay, forget about, and this confusion happens with, say, human-centric lighting, right? With tuning and circadian. People kind of mix tuning and circadian together, and they're actually not the same thing. While tuning is a part of circadian, tuning has a whole bunch of applications that stand alone. And so people get confused and they don't know what they're actually doing. Am I with circadian, am I giving them choice or am I telling them what to do? Because you understand what I mean? It gets confusing. If the lighting industry, if an IES committee was on dark skies or darkness came out and said, okay, the goal of the lighting industry for outdoor electric light at night is to restore natural darkness as much as possible. End. Full stop. I think you would solve the energy problem. You'd solve the wasted light at night problem. You could build incentives around that. Like if that was the only goal, that there's nothing else you need to do except restore natural darkness wherever, whenever you can, and that's the goal of the industry for outdoor electric light. Does it solve the control issue? Does it solve the light trespass? I think it solves all the problems: the energy problems, the wasted light problems, the wildlife problems, the human health problems, the flicker problems, everything. Am I crazy? It occurred to me. I'm like, that has to be the answer. Simple goal.
I like it. I like it. I mean, I don't know if everybody else is going to like it, but I think that's where we're trying to go, though, honestly. But, we do need some parameters to work towards. And I think that's where, not maybe the miss, whatever you want to call it, but for manufacturers is, we're, kind of need some parameters to follow here. And I think that's where like that tiered system and, what's required, that's something that we can, work towar's. So
right. So what you have with the prison yard is you're going to restore natural darkness as much as you possibly can. Okay, because we can't have people escaping. But if that's what we're trying to achieve, it changes the mindset to, can we turn these lights off? Can we control them better? Can we dim them? Can we have occupancy sensors so that senses movement? And this kind of thing. I think it's a guiding principle. Your friend on the board, Brian Amsden, Doug, has a big task. You know what the name of his committee is?
I have a good feeling, but why don't you tell us?
The 5 sales tactics of responsible outdoor lighting.
Oh, okay. I didn't see that. Okay.
Yeah, so he's got to come up with hopefully, they are able to think it through. He has some experience
sure,
with First Nations people and some coastal areas of Oregon where he lives and works that he can bring to the table. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see if we can balance the responsibilities with some savvy moves, Greg Eric.
We're taking the right steps. We just got to continue on with it.
All right. Any final thoughts, Doug?
I would just say, again, we want to work together with those that we addressed the letter to. It's, again, I love the tagline that Ted picked up or put in for us, which was, rallying the industry. So we're trying to do it, and we're just trying to see who wants to join us in the journey to get there. So looking forward to working with anybody that's willing to help. And, we have an opportunity to really make a key impact on the industry and even outside the industry, the communities that we all live in. So, as I've gotten more knowledgeable on the topic and, we talk about it more, the more, it kind of resonates and, as just thinking about where we live, where our families live and the need that we need to make some changes sooner than later. So.
Greg, you got to go right now to solera-solar.com. That's solera-solar.com. That's harder to say than you think, buddy. You're reversing those things.
Solera-solar.com. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh. And LED-LLC.com for light efficient design. Doug, why don't you take it home here with some products you want to tell the people about?
Sure. We will. We'll go back to our Solera solar family since we're on the topic and we're talking about outdoor lighting today. But be on the lookout for our new hybrid wall pack. So that will, be powered by the sun, but have that ability to tap into the grid for that guaranteed 365 nights of light. We are working on coming out with that in 3, 4, 5,000 Kelvin, not 3 separate units, but one individual unit that has that flexible color adjustment. So I hope to help develop a dark sky friendly, hybrid wall pack at some point too. Maybe make it 2200, 2700, 3000K. We'll see what we can come up with. But appreciate the opportunity, guys.
Oh, no, it's our pleasure, man. And thank you for volunteering for that and serving the board of the smallest, biggest, toughest, mightiest association in the lighting industry. That's the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, of course. Light Efficient Design, proud members. Michael Colligan and I, both distributors. And before we let you go, we're going to say goodbye. That's it. I love you guys. All my peers out there that listen to this show, go to nailed.org. If you haven't joined now, we might not let you in. We've had enough of the BS with you guys out there. Maybe, come on. Nailed.org, check it out. LS Evolve, LS1. I just registered 3 people today in LS1. They're gonna be hitting LS Evolve super hard soon. All manner of dark sky education coming hot into that. Plus you got tuning, Dr. Mark Ray, Dr. Andrea Wilkerson, John Dava, blah, 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 Fred Van Leeuwen. Oh, man, we got everybody cooking in there. So get in there ASAP. LS Evolve is just for Nailed members. Thanks for listening.